Hello, and welcome to the first intermission for Merely Players, a series where I take my Shakespeare dolls out of my video game dollhouse, and instead of making them kiss, I spin them around and I tell you about their traumas. I think that's a good summary of the first episode. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what I'm counting for. So I am once again in the studio. This is going to be kind of a freestyling day where I go through some of the notes and see how much I can expand on them. But once again, because I want to see, I think it's picking up a lot of the background noise, so I have to be very conscious of what I do with my hands. So yeah, once again, to kind of get comfortable with the microphone. I don't know if it's too close to my thing right now. I'm gonna recite a little bit from the play. And yeah, just see? Yeah, I can hear everything. It's a little eerie. Maybe the headphones are too good today because I feel like I can hear everything. Oh, this will be interesting. I've never done this one before. So I think it's going to be kind of a very, this is public facing, so I got to keep that in mind. Loosening up my scarf. Okay. Though yet of Hamlet, our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it us befitted to bear our hearts in grief and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature, that we with wisest sorrow think on him together with remembrance of ourselves. Okay, I have to... Okay, maybe I can do speech and commentary today. Maybe that'll be fun. This is such a ballsy opening. Shakespearean language can be quite tricky, and personally, not being a professional actor, my delivery is might still be a little flat. I just kind of want to break it down because it's so disingenuous. Just disingenuous. Woo, that was a $5 word. So you have to keep in mind that when he's using us, ourselves, he's using the royal we. So he's speaking both as himself and as the king of Denmark, Denmark as a body. So he's saying, our dear brother, I should be so sad right now, right? I should be so sad. And all of us should be so sad. But, oh my lord, he's so fake. I love him. He is speaking of us as a nation, speaking of us as Danes, but also speaking of himself and the way he's kind of distinguishing the good of the self from the good of the state, or not even distinguishing them, but conflating them. It's very subtle and clever, and I think it's also another thing that you have to be aware of that you might not think immediately when you hear this speech, because that also kind of tells you how fake it is. Because he's not just saying our dear brother's death, my dear brother who I love so much and I should just be so sad about, we should all be sad about him, but me especially, because he is my brother and so dear to me, I should just be so sad, and all of us should be sad together. But, and then there's the, but, and the way he describes it is this inner battle, so he's going to use a lot of opposites throughout the rest of this speech, but he says discretion fought with nature, it's a real inner struggle that we've got to go through, where we have to be sad wisely, And what does wisdom dictate? Well, what does wisdom dictate? Though yet of Hamlet, our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it us be fitted to bear our hearts in grief, and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature, that we with wisest sorrow think on him, together with remembrance of ourselves. Therefore our sometime sister, now our queen, the imperial jointress to this warlike state, have we as 'twere with a defeated joy, with an auspicious and a dropping eye, with mirth in funeral and with dirge and marriage, an equal scale weighing delight and dole, taken to wife. Nor have we herein barred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with this fair along. Ooh, that one is also very ballsy. So basically what he's arguing here is that he's so sad. He would keep being sad, but he's got to think of himself with great reluctance. He's got to marry his sister. And so, yeah, but he also goes like that last bit. Nor have we herein barred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with us fair along. So basically he's saying, yeah, and all of you two put me up to it too. I mean, I was like, hey, what if I married my sister? And you all were like, hey, yeah, you should marry your sister. Anyways. He's just trying not to commit the sin of onanism, and I'm very proud of him for it. But it's very impressive rhetoric too. I said earlier that maybe my delivery is very flat, so it's not coming across this kind of verbal gymnastics that he's doing, but I do think it's so well constructed and that he's so good at this type of public speech that it lulls you. Like it's also in that iambic pentameter, which I'm never good at like writing or identifying an iambic pentameter, but when it's spoken and it's got that flow to it, it lulls you. It's
have at you then, affection's men at arms. Consider what you first did swear unto.
It's very persuasive. We with wisest sorrow think on him, together with remembrance of ourselves. He's doing a lot of uniting, and that listing of opposites, bringing them together, bringing things together in marriage. I think that's also very indicative of what he's trying to do with this speech. He's trying to get everybody together and also to think of them as all involved in the same project. So that's why that royal we is also very effective. What's good for him is good for you, etc., etc. And if you've got like a Hamlet who's like clearly sulking in the background, it really does drive home how separate he is from everyone. So where else was I going to go with that? Now follows that young Fortinbras, holding a weak supposal of our worth, or thinking by our late dear brother's death our state to be disjoint and out of frame, colleagued with the dream of his advantage. He hath not failed to pester us with message, importing the surrender of those lands lost by his father with all bonds of law to our most valiant brother. So much for him. Oh, I don't know if I did too sassy for that one, but I find it quite sassy. There's a certain ambiguity that I think I noticed while I was reading through it. Lost by his father with all bonds of law to our most valiant brother. So much for him. He starts out talking about young Fortinbras, distinguished from King Fortinbras. He wants his father's land back. His father lost that land to my brother. And then he ends it, so much for him. Which, buddy, there were like 3 hymns there. You could read it and this is the way I've always heard it, naturally. So much for him, so much for this young Fortinbras. But it does come right after To Our Most Valiant Brothers. So much for him. So I find that very interesting. It's also not, I think, going to be the first thing on anyone's mind. So it could be like a layer dismissal in the same sense that once he starts talking to Hamlet, Hamlet's going to give his very layered dismissals like,
But now my cousin Hamlet and my son.
A little more than kin and less than kind.
How is it that the clouds still hang on you?
Not so, my lord, I am too much of the sun.
you know, things that can be read either way. That's just language of this family. The reason why this is a tragedy is because nobody communicates directly. And the murder never helps. And it's setting up the political scene in Elsinore right now. This is scene 2. So in scene 1, you would have already gotten Horatio's retelling of it, of that war with the King Fortinbras and King Hamlet, sons named after the fathers. It's all really thematic and circular. And how it was done with all bonds of law. He emphasizes that, just as Claudius does here. This was, a lawful murder, which I think is an interesting kind of way to think about it, because everything was above board. And, sorry, kid, but King Hamlet murdered your dad and took his land. And he agreed to do that. You understand why Fortinbras is still mad about this, right? You killed his father, and sons feel a way about that. But for some reason, I don't think Claudius wants to think about how sons feel about that. Weird, huh? No, it's just so clever how much the political landscape does to reflect the personal landscape, and how it's just oops, all foils all the way down. But yeah, these themes are really fun, and they're all just right here beneath the surface in the very first speech.